Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with another transfer talk roundup show. Make sure you smash that like button and hit that subscribe button. Help us on the road to 6,000 subscribers and get your comments and your thoughts on the latest transfer news that is surrounding Aston Villa. And we're getting one step closer to football, proper football being back. FA Cup quarter-final coming up on Sunday against Preston. And then we have about 60,000 games in the next 3 weeks to cover. So plenty more shows to come. But yes, let's talk transfers. So I guess the biggest news and one of the most important bits of business that we would have to complete this summer is the signing of Boubacar Kamara on a new contract. And John Percy of the Daily Telegraph has come in with an article that has ghosted it at the back post, as John Percy likes to do, and confirmed that Aston Villa will start Boubacar Kamara contract talks. Have actually started Boubacar Kamara contract talks. Negotiations are underway with one of Unai Emery's key pillars who has impressed since returning from a serious knee injury. And it says Aston Villa have started contract talks with Boubacar Kamara in a key piece of business for manager Unai Emery, and they're looking at a long-term deal after he has emerged as one of Unai Emery's most crucial players. And for me, he is probably our best player in the squad. Yes, Marco Asensio has arrived. Yes, Marcus Rashford has arrived in terms of ability and technical ability. They are wonderful, but Boubacar Kamara is so important to us. He makes such a difference in our midfield. The way that he can take the ball under pressure, the way he can break the lines with his passes, the way he can drift forward with the ball. And I think he could probably improve a little bit more. There's not enough goals. I know that's not his position, but in terms of other parts of his game that he could improve, that sometimes is an area, and maybe a little bit of strength in terms of when we come up against the likes of Newcastle, Crystal Palace and those types of teams. I think he could maybe compete a little bit more. But that being said, for me, probably our best player. He is just, when he's on his game, he's absolutely fantastic. And as I say, the way he can take the ball and the way he complements the other players, the way he drops into different positions when we have other players going forward is so important to us. And signing him on a long-term contract would be probably the best piece of business that we could do. Considering we signed him on a free transfer, I think his wages would obviously pretty high at that point. I don't think he'd be anywhere near at the moment one of the highest paid players in our squad, but this longer term deal would reward him and make him one of those. And I think he would deserve it. Maybe some slight injury concerns there, but I think that's a thing that we'll have to manage. And I think as our squad gets better, we can be more selective with bringing him in and giving him rest days and all that kind of stuff and managing his fitness to mean that he plays more consistently. But it would be absolutely huge for us to keep hold of him, because otherwise we're going to have to cash in and sell him and make a decision on him. And there will be a lot of interest from top clubs across Europe for him. So it is vital, I would say, that we get him tied down to a longer term deal, protect the investment. I'm sure there'd still be some sort of release clause in there. And I'm sure that it would be European football dependent on him wanting to sign. And obviously us progressing in the Champions League, progressing in the FA Cup, hopefully winning that competition and at least guaranteeing Europa League football for next season would be absolutely massive for us to secure him his contract signature for his own personal career and wanting to progress, but also from an Aston Villa perspective, being able to offer him the financial package and being able to afford that. European football is vital for us for next season. So it will be absolutely massive for us to sign Boubacar Kamara on a long-term deal. And as I said, probably the most important piece of business that Unai Emery and the team could do in the summer. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Your thoughts. Is Kamara an absolutely vital cog in the machine? Is it an absolute must that we sign him to a long-term deal for the future of where we want to go as a club, continuing to push forward? Now, I guess hinging on some of that, Boubacar Kamara and one or two other midfielders, we've seen this bizarre link today with Tottenham midfielder Yves Bissouma. Now, I would imagine probably 2, maybe 3 years ago, he was on every club's radar. He had such a great time at Brighton, and he was probably one of the top players in the country at that point in terms of central midfield. But it hasn't really hit off for Bissouma. He's had lots of sort of stop-start with injuries. He's had suspensions, and he hasn't really sort of fitted in with how Ange Postecoglou likes to play. I mean, there's not many players in the Tottenham team that have adapted to that style well since he first came in, since those initial few games. But it has been a real stop-start for him. He's been at Tottenham since 2022, played 73 times in the league and scored 2 goals. Before that, he was at Brighton for 4 years, 2018 to 22, and played 112 times, scoring 3 goals. Before that was at Lille, where he played 47 times and scored 3 goals. And he has 44 caps for Mali. I think he's probably one of those crossroads in his career at the moment. 28 years of age, probably leads to look at, okay, am I going to force my way in? Is Tottenham the club for me? Do I want to stay at Tottenham or do I want to move on? Now, this probably smacks a little bit of a agent looking to put stories out there. I wouldn't be surprised if Aston Villa's name will be mentioned now, then West Ham's name will be mentioned, and then maybe in the likes of Everton or even Crystal Palace, clubs like that might be mentioned for him, because he probably wants to secure some sort of interest in him to maybe drive a little bit of a bidding war for him to move on. But if we look at his SofaScore stats in terms of what he's doing this season, now for me, as I say, it's been a real sort of stop-start time for him. And I would sort of say no. I don't see where he gets in ahead of any of our players. Amadou Onana's had not the greatest of starts for Aston Villa. He came in, did really, really well, and been in and out with injury. And I think he's probably got more to prove for next season and more to improve on for next season. We've got Ross Barkley in there as well. Did so well for the first half of the season and came in at key times, just coming back from injury. We talk about Boubacar Kamara now. Do you bring Bissouma in for if Kamara moves on? I think there's much better out there. Then you've got Tielemans, you've got McGinn, you've got Lamar Bogard, you've got Berenacea, who's out on loan. I think we've got better options. But let's take a look at his stats. Can obviously play defensive midfield or central midfield, further forward, positioning, tackling, high pressing. His strengths hasn't really featured too much this season in terms of starts. So yes, he gets about across the pitch, but not a huge amount in terms of games played. Only started 14 times this season, featured 22, scored 2 goals. Not necessarily what he's renowned for. Hasn't had any assists. Hasn't created any big chances. Again, not something that he's renowned for. More sort of circulating the ball, keep winning the ball back, giving it to other players in the team that can create, I suppose. 90% in terms of passing accuracy, 93% in the zone half, 86% in the opposition half, 3.1 ball recoveries per game, 1.3 clearances, 3 errors leading to shots, 1 error leading to a goal. He's given away a penalty, and 52% ground duels won. So to me, in terms of his stats that he is set up to do, I think there's better out there, and I don't think he's playing well at all. Now, maybe we know what Unai Emery is like. If he sees something in a player, if he can improve people, if he can give people a fresh start, then that's something that he likes to do. But for me, Yves Bissouma is probably a no. I can't see how and where he improves us. And I think it's a story that's been put out there. And Aston Villa is the club this week that is being linked with him, when there'll probably be multiple clubs that his agent or whoever is looking after him will link him to. Now, wingers, we're probably looking at wide players. We've got Rashford in at the moment on loan. We've got Leon Bailey. We've got Daniel Marlon. Obviously, we've signed Marlon, and we're hoping that he kind of settles in and produces. There's probably question marks over Leon Bailey. There's question marks over whether we sign Marcus Rashford, not in terms of his performances at the moment. He's playing very well, and we want to see him score that first goal for us. He's obviously contributed with quite a few assists, and he's given us a real impetus moving forward. But there is probably still a spot for a winger out there, regardless of whether we sign Rashford or we look at moving on Leon Bailey. So Ademola Lookman has been another player that has been linked with Aston Villa, currently at Atalanta, where he's really made his name and really hit some consistency, played fantastically well in the Europa League and has done well in the Champions League as well. Has been at Atalanta since 2022, scored 37 times from 85 games. Was at Leipzig as well and played 11 times where he signed for them, but also was on loan for them as well. He's had loans at Fulham, he's had loans at Leicester, and he's played at Everton as well as when he was a youngster at Charlton. So quite a varied career, been at quite a few clubs and tried to really, find a club where he could make his name, and Atalanta has been that club. Represented England up to under 21 level and has now pledged allegiance to Nigeria, where he has 28 caps, scoring 8 goals. So, yeah, a really good player and someone, I guess, who would be in that ilk of Leon Bailey. Sometimes fantastic, sometimes frustrating, which is the case for a lot of wingers. That's kind of how they are, and you have to keep giving them the ball. You have to make sure they're playing with that confidence to go after and beat their man. But if we look at his stats, he probably has more of an eye for goal, or certainly has more of an eye for goal, albeit, in Serie A, where Atalanta have been doing very well. Is that maybe slightly different standard? Is the game set up for him? Is it slightly different in the Premier League? That's something to consider as well, because he hasn't quite hit it in the Premier League as yet. But maybe at 27 years of age, is he a bit more mature? Has he kind of ironed out those inconsistencies in his game? Strengths, long shots, playmaking, positioning. In terms of his map across that left-hand side, cutting in. So very much like the Marcus Rashford type player. Maybe not as physically strong as Rashford, but certainly got the pace. And as I say, the finishing capabilities, 13 goals in 23 games, only 21 starts as well. Missed 13 big chances. And we've seen quite a few times in Europe where he's had a lot of chances and he hasn't put them away. So could have had even more goals. 8 with his right foot, 4 with his left foot, and 1 with the head. So can score from different areas. 11 from inside the box, 2 from outside the box, 5 assists as well, and created 9 big chances. So a real big player for Atalanta. 79% in terms of passing accuracy, 85% in his own half, 71% in the opposition half, and 2.2 ball recoveries as well. So works very hard for the team. We know the coach of Atalanta likes the players to work hard, and we've seen him criticised a few times, one for taking penalties. So hopefully he wouldn't be taking penalties for if he did sign for us. We've got a few sort of dodgy penalty takers at the moment, but Asensio or Rashford in there can certainly do that job for us. Successful dribbles, 36%, and we know that he likes to do that quite often. And in terms of ground duels, 39%, total duels, 39% as well. So, yeah, a player who likes to work hard. Those aren't his strengths in his game, but certainly an interesting player if we were to look for him. And I do think, there are quite a few other teams that have him on their radar. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Aston Villa and other clubs linked to him. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Would he be an upgrade to, say, Leon Bailey? Different positions. He's more off the left, Bailey's off the right. So that kind of contradicts that in a sense. But could we change the way that we play a little bit more to accommodate that? Or would, if we weren't to sign Rashford, if that is the case, if we are going to sign him, would Lookman be a better alternative or a different alternative? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And finally, we've become very familiar with this player, Club Brugge left back, who we have featured 3 times against us, Maxime de Cuyper. Now, he, again, very, very good player, plays left back, but can play further forward, and did very, very well against Aston Villa in both legs of the last 16 tie, scoring a goal as well, which a lovely finish in the home leg, and played a couple of really nice passes against Aston Villa in the second leg. And, yeah, it's come through Club Brugge. Went on loan at Westerlo as well from 21 to 23, but made his name, I think, in the last couple of years. Been at Brugge since 2020, playing 62 times, scoring 5 goals, and has now represented Belgium, where he has 8 caps and scored 2 goals. And we know we have quite a good history with Belgian players at the moment, with Yuri Tillemans and Amadou Onana. So maybe they've been speaking to him on international duty about the wonderful vibe we have at the club at the moment, and certainly promoting the club. Let's have a look at his stats on SofaScore. Can play left back, can play right back as well. Ground duels are his strength, good rating. Obviously operates predominantly on that left-hand side, but can get up and down. Now, we have Luca Dean at the moment and Ian Maatsen. Would he potentially be a successor to Luca Dean? That could be an interesting one. Played 27 times, started 24 games, 8 team of the weeks, 2 goals, 4 big chances missed. This is in the Belgian league. Both goals with his left foot, 4 assists and 18 big chances created. So really we've seen the creativity in his passing. We've seen how good he is at putting the ball in the box as well. So that I'm not surprised at the number of big chances that he's being created. 83% in terms of accurate passes, 90% accuracy in his own half, 71 in the opposition half, so pretty high there. 7 clean sheets has been a part of as well. We know Club Brugge are a good side in that league. 4 ball recoveries per game, 1.9 tackles per game, 2.1 clearances per game. So, these stats, 61% ground duels won, these stats will be certainly alerting a lot of top clubs across Europe. So I would not be surprised to see him linked to some big clubs over the summer. Aston Villa, I think he could be a really good signing for us, particularly if we maybe say goodbye to Luca Dean on a high wage. Could you bring in someone like Cuyper in, compete with Ian Maatsen for that left back spot, or just be a different option? I think it'd be really interesting to see. So for me, that would be a great signing if we could make that. That's it from me in terms of a transfer roundup. So Boubacar Kamara, is he the most important signing of the summer? Yves Bissouma, can you see it? I can't. I think it's just fishing for interest. Ademola Lookman, interesting alternative to maybe Rashford. And also if Leon Bailey goes, could we do with another wide option? And Maxime de Cuyper, could he be the answer at left back if we were to move Luca Dean on? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'll be back later on this week with Fans Forum, Preston preview, Preston reaction. Football will be back very, very soon. Make sure you smash that like button and hit that subscribe button. Help us on the road to 6K. Thank you all for watching. And as always, remember, we'll follow the Villa.